So, the story kicks off with this super messed up scene, in an Indonesian prison. A place for the country's worst criminals. We see this prisoner, looking all sick, hunched over, scrubbing the floor. Then the warden rolls up to meet a specific inmate, and heads to his cell. He throws a bunch of photos of little kids in his face, saying, "Take a good look. You're responsible for all their deaths. A monster like you doesn't even deserve to live." But the prisoner calmly fires back. "Those people weren't innocent. What I did was totally necessary. But you wouldn't get it." As soon as he's done talking, the prisoner pulls out a razor-sharp blade from inside his mop bucket. Quick as lightning, he slices the guard's throat. Before anyone can figure out what's happening, he snatches their gun and starts blasting away. In all the chaos, the prisoner grabs the warden so he can't escape. Now it's just him and one guard left standing, and they're both firing at. Meanwhile, this prisoner's breaking out of his cell, and he sees the warden crawling on the ground trying to escape. He goes full savage, shoves his hand in the dude's mouth, breaks his jaw. You can tell he thinks he's above the law, like no one can touch him here. Then Lee frees all the inmates in the prison, hands them all weapons and tells them to move out. They were stoked as hell, but their joyride didn't last. There were more guards waiting up ahead, and a crazy shootout went down. Nobody made it out alive except Lee, who knew they were all gonna die anyway, so he hung back on purpose, and he straight up walked over their bodies on his way out. And on his way, anyone he found alive, he iced them. And just like that, Indonesia's most dangerous criminal is back, free as a bird. Across the world, we see a fisherman named Romy. Like every morning, he's heading out to get his boat to fish. And he spots a body. The waves were pushing it towards the beach. 2 months after this, we see Eileen, a doctor at a local hospital there. Eileen was treating the dude they found on the beach. He's been in a coma for 2 months. And still no one's visited him because of all the wounds on his body. Eileen was like, who the heck did this to this poor guy? She didn't even know what disease he had, so she decided to name it herself. While she was asleep, his body started twitching. The dude was having seriously messed up nightmares. Then he'd scream his head off and wake up. First thing he'd do when he realized he was in a hospital was try to book it. But he was way too weak. The second he put his foot down, he ate it, and that woke up Eileen. Eileen asked him his name. But he had amnesia. Couldn't remember his name, who he was, where he came from, what happened, couldn't remember jack. So Eileen got him a CAT scan, and found metal fragments lodged in his head. They gotta do surgery to get him out. Until they're out, he ain't gonna remember a damn thing. Eileen was like, from now on your name's Ishmael. Once you remember everything, we'll call you by your real name. She also introduced him to Romy. Saved his life that night. We see how a bunch of gang members were freaked out about Lee escaping prison, and they held a serious meeting with their guys to figure out a way to get rid of Lee. But then he's carrying a bag of pasta in his hand, and Lee walks in all cool, like he's back from a vacation, not from prison. And Lee sits down in front of them and starts eating. But then one of them, the gang leader, tells him, let's get down to brass tacks. I'm firing you from this gig. We worked with you because you had clout and people feared you. But now it looks like all that's ending. Today we're gonna off you and take your spot. And then no one can stop us. But they didn't know they were facing Lee, who ain't worth jack, and with one signal from him, his guys jumped out of the van and wiped out the gangbangers outside. These dudes were tough guys, and Lee trained them himself. No one ever fought them and lived. And inside, when the attack on Lee happened, a girl named Rika sliced up anyone who raised a hand to them. She sold them all. And when no help came from outside, the gang member knew his survival was a long shot. As soon as he pulled his piece, Lee, with a quick move, grabbed a chopstick and jammed it into the guy's neck, killing him. The gang member next to him was so scared he peed himself and said, I don't know this dude. He's not even my boss. But Lee was like, if you don't know him, why were you eavesdropping? Lee was about to off him then, but the dude was like, don't kill me. I know something that could help you. I found out about a guy who used to be important to you. They found him by the sea, and now he's in The hospital. I can get him for you. When Lee heard that he paused, wondering if it was the same guy. Then he shot a bullet past Bondi's ear, telling him, "Now you can go to the hospital, bring him back here." When Bondi went to the hospital, the nurse told him, "First, fill out the form. 'Cause there are other patients waiting in line." But Bondi snapped at the nurse and punched the guards who tried to stop him. While they were fighting, Eileen showed up. Seeing that her patient was a thug, she decided to treat him first. As Eileen was giving him medicine, Bondi asked her about the guy they found by the sea. But Eileen denied knowing anything about a guy like that. After that, Bondi got pissed and started harassing the doctor too, touching her inappropriately. The dude was way out of line, so Eileen threatened to call security. But Bondi knew nobody was gonna show, so he started messing with her even more. But that's when Ishmael showed up and kicked his ass. Bondi got pissed and smashed a bottle on Ishmael's head, which made him see stars for a sec. But as soon as he came to, he was like possessed, and grabbed Bondi's neck, choking him so hard he almost passed out. And before he killed him, Eileen calmed him down, so Ishmael let him go. That night, on their way home, Eileen asked Ishmael who he really was, saying, "What you did today really freaked me out. And if you stay here, your life could be in danger. You gotta come with me to Jakarta." And that's when Ishmael knew there was something messed up in his head, and to fix it, they had to go to Jakarta. 'Cause if he stays here, maybe not the gang, but the sickness will for sure off him. Next day we see them both chilling at the bus station. Buses to Jakarta were leaving from there. While they're sitting, Ishmael caught a glimpse of his past, which gave him a headache. At that moment, we see Bondi and his crew, who were hiding and watching him. After a bit, their bus showed up, but they couldn't see them, 'cause a van pulled up right in the middle. Then they all chased after that bus, but they had no clue that Ishmael wasn't even on the bus, 'cause he didn't get on in the first place. On the way, a car made the driver stop the bus, but as soon as he did, thugs stormed the bus and opened fire. Then they told Ishmael to get out, but after a sec they realized nobody had that name, and to cover their tracks, they lit up everyone on the bus. Eileen, who was totally freaked, called Ishmael for help, but at that moment, the thugs offed every man, woman, and even the kids on the bus. In the end, just Eileen and a little girl were left. They asked Eileen about Ishmael, but the poor thing didn't know jack. Then they beat her real bad. Just then, Ishmael and Romy came to check out the bus. When they saw the bus stopped on a blocked road, they ran inside and found everyone dead. He checked every body, but Eileen wasn't anywhere. Then he found Eileen's glasses. But before he could figure anything out, a dude holding a gas can walked onto the bus. Ishmael begged him to let him go, and that he wouldn't tell anyone anything. But this dude jumped Ishmael. They scuffled, and Ishmael had to break his arm. But that wasn't enough, 'cause from behind him, another guy poured gas on him, and whipped out a lighter to set Ishmael on fire, while he's still alive. But Ishmael kicked him, and tried blowing out the lighter's flame. But then a third dude started chasing him, and set the bus on fire, and locked him in from the outside. But before the flames got to him, Ishmael got out of the bus. One guy tried to shoot him with the gun, but then to save his life, Romy jumped in and took the bullet, and Ishmael was super bummed 'cause his boy died, but then someone jumped him and knocked him out. Meanwhile, Ben's seeing Bondi, who's like, "The girl's fine, but why'd we bring this kid here? She's totally useless. We should just let her go." But they shot her, 'cause she wasn't worth anything anymore. Then they threw Eileen in the slammer, and Rika really messed her up. She found Ishmael's medical records near Eileen, so she snatched him and gave him to Lee, and then Lee ordered his guys to grab him alive. Meanwhile, when Ishmael woke up, he was Brad in the cop shop. The officer was super pissed at him, 'cause he thought he killed everyone on the bus, but Ishmael kept trying to prove his innocence. Then this cop slid a file in front of him, showed him a pic of Lee, and was like, "Recognize this dude?" But Ishmael's memory was wiped, so he couldn't remember anything. And then this cop shows another pic of Ishmael and Lee chilling together. And before he could say who he was and what his connection to Lee was, all of a sudden, the police station lights went out. The cop knew something was up, so he went outside to check. But as soon as he peeked through the window, some dude on the other side, with a blade slashed his face. Then he came in and went after Ishmael, whose hands were tied to the table, so the poor guy couldn't escape. But if he gave up, he was dead, so he did what he could. And he ended up killing this dude. Then someone chucked a grenade inside, and it blew up big time. But Ishmael somehow survived that too, and killed everyone who came to off him. He was still trying to bail when he saw 2 more guys at the gate who were gonna ice him. One of them was like, "You go flip the lights and I'll finish this dude off," and said that and started shooting. But he missed Ishmael. Ishmael calmly tried to sneak up on him from behind, but then the lights came on and he got grabbed. The 2 of them got into a serious brawl over the gun, but in the end, the other dude snatched the piece. And to ditch him, Ishmael ducked under the table, and his bullets ran out. And before he could reload, Ishmael went at him again after taking a serious beating. He finally used his head and shot him. When the other guy saw his bro's body, he lost it. They went at it, and the dude grabbed Ishmael's neck and choked him, but he didn't give up either, and laid into him with some nice punches. Ishmael beat him till he was half dead. But he didn't kill him, 'cause he wasn't a killer. But when he went to leave, the guy attacked him again, and then he had to kill him, and that was that. Unfortunately, it was too late to feel sorry. Meanwhile, we see Eileen, who hid a sharp pair of scissors. And then Lee was like, "So you're the one who saved Katie's life." He told his guys not to off him. But he freaked when he found out. Katie answered the phone, and remembered everything. Super pissed, he grabbed Eileen like, "Get over here ASAP or the girl's gonna die." He sent Katie the location. Eileen tried to pull a fast one, attacking him with scissors. Lee was like, "You should have gone for the neck. Don't they teach you that in nurse doctor school?" Now Lee's just waiting for Kadeh, aka Ismail. Seeing the broken sword made him flash back to when he tried to kill Kadeh. That day, Kadeh wasted his best fighter, meaning if his guys can't stop him today, he'll have to do it himself. Meanwhile, Kadeh's searching for them, and made it to the forest. He found a deep well. That's a real painful memory. 'Cause in this pit, Lee would chuck kids in there, starve them for days, sometimes weeks even. And when they got super hungry, he'd toss a water bottle down, and they'd have to kill each other to get a drink. And the one who survived, Lee would pull him out. Then he'd train them, turn them into killers, to work for him their whole lives. Kadeh was still remembering all that when his old buddy Rare showed up and was like, "So, you remember everything now, huh?" Kadeh and Big O used to be tight. Big O risked his life for him a bunch of times. But, tough luck for them, they're facing off today. Big O said, "Wish you hadn't come here, man. I'm gonna give you one more chance to bounce. I ain't gonna kill you." But Kadeh refused to back down. He wasn't gonna leave Eileen, and attacked him to finish him off. But Big Joe backed off and disappeared. Kadeh thought he was gone for good. But that wasn't the case, and he suddenly jumped him. Big Joe wasn't like the rest, he was better and stronger. That's why Kadeh couldn't hold his own for long, and wasn't getting a chance to strike. He was just training him, nothing more. And Kadeh got seriously messed up. Finally, after taking a total beatdown, QB landed a solid punch. Big Joe couldn't take it, and we saw his mouth bleeding. And then he dipped out all smooth. And when Kadeh got close, he saw Big O was dead. He was trying to process it, but Rika opened fire. Luckily he managed to duck, and hid behind a huge rock. He took his shot, jumped her, and snatched some of the gun. "How much?" she said, trying to get closer to him. But Kadeh told her to chill, 'cause he didn't want to kill her. Rika was like, "So, you just gonna forget about us 'cause of this chick?" She was so pissed, so she lunged at Kadeh and stabbed him a bunch of times. Obviously, that messed him up bad. But Kadeh didn't kill her. He was like, "Yo, enough is enough. Cut it out. You know Lee ain't good." And he was like, "Don't even talk to her," and was about to leave, but Rika tried to off him again. And Kadeh ended up smacking her in the head. Real good. Took Rika's knife and told her to back off. And they seemed to have an understanding. But as soon as Kadeh reached out to help, Rika pulled another gun on him and shot him a bunch. So Kadeh had no choice but to ice her too. But when he opened his eyes, he wasn't hit by a single bullet. And Rika did it on purpose, and was like, "Now we're even." and then she just kicked the bucket right there. And her death messed Cady up bad. But what was the poor dude gonna do? We see Lee was waiting for Cady hella eager, and was expecting him to come crawling. But the total opposite happened. He called him and said he was outside. At that point the dude walked into Eileen's cell and said, "Don't go with him." When Eileen refused, he started forcing her. He was trying to assault Eileen, but then the little girl clocked him on the forehead with a plate, and he was seriously hurt. After that, he hit Eileen and the kid, and took advantage of the situation. The girl grabbed his rifle, and Eileen also jumped him. When the dude saw their hands shaking, he thought they were bluffing, like they wouldn't actually shoot, but then the little girl took the safety off the rifle. And then Eileen shot him. They both got out of there, and ran into another guy. But she killed him too. The sound of the shots made a few more guys chase after her, and she killed as many as she could, but then, and wouldn't you know it, she was out of ammo. They were gonna waste her, but then Cady showed up, smoked them all and saved her. Told her to get out of there. This is Ishmael. But we see that Eileen was super freaked out. So she's telling him to back off, 'cause she thought he was one of the monsters too. But Cady's like, "Eileen, I ain't one of them. You saved my life once, and I need you to save me again." When Eileen heard that, she dropped the knife, hugged him, and started bawling her eyes out. That's when Cady spotted Lee, who was totally losing it. He went after him and beat him bad. And Lee's yelling, "You're just a dog. You don't know loyalty." When he found out Rika kicked the bucket, he started crying, 'cause he raised her like his own daughter. Cady said, "She died the day I pulled her out of that well. You're the only one to blame for her death." When Lee heard that, he lost it, and went after Cady, and every hit was on point and lethal. So in minutes, Cady couldn't stand on his feet, but he still had fight in him, so he didn't give up, and kept fighting Lee. And this brawl ain't gonna end till one of them kicks the bucket. And little by little, their fight got more savage, and Cady was hurting more. But despite all that, he toughened up and got up again, and threw a bunch of punches at Lee, one after the other. And with the last hit, he punched Lee so hard he couldn't get up again, and he was all out of juice to fight. So he tried to bail, but Cady wouldn't let him go till he offed him. He wasn't gonna get away with anything. Lee came at him again, this time putting everything he had into it. But Cady broke his hand too. Cady hoisted him up, and threw him onto a pointy piece of wood that went right through Lee. He was taking his last breaths, but even as he was dying, he was still trying to kill Cady, trying to shove Cady's neck into the same pointy wood. And he almost did it. That's when Eileen pulled Cady away from behind. He got weak and his grip loosened. He died from blood loss a little later. Cady survived, but he was so messed up he passed out. Next thing you know, we see Eileen at the hospital. Docs patched up Cady, and pulled the shrapnel out of his head, but now he's in a coma. He's out cold, and it could be months before he wakes up. While Cady's spacing out, Eileen's eyes welled up. But she kept it together, and started wishing him well. Then her eyes landed on the patient nameplate, but it was totally blank. Eileen wrote Cady's name, but then immediately erased it, and like a prayer answered. Cady woke up in Portsmouth. At the same time, he told Eileen that she should have written to Ishmael, and when she heard that, Eileen got her smile back. She was super stoked that Ishmael was finally back with her, and that's where our story ends for today. Stay tuned for more vids and summaries. Peace out.